Am I the idiot for asking my husband to stay with his family while he's unemployed? My husband, 32, and I, 30, have been married for just over a year now and things couldn't be rockier. I have a good job and make a decent amount of money, whereas my husband does not make as much as me. Due to this, and the fact he was still living with his parents when we got married, we decided he would move in with me and I would continue to pay the rent and bills as long as he put money toward other things we may need as a couple. My name is the only one on the lease. However, once we got married, he started to cut down on his work hours without saying anything first. He gave the explanation that I made plenty of money for the both of us so he could just work part-time and do the work around the house while I was the main breadwinner. I was fine with this, a little upset that he had just assumed this would be okay, but I didn't say anything as this felt fair. He did do some work around the house initially, but spent the majority of his time going out to the bar, playing video games, etc., to the point where I was the one both working and doing the cooking, cleaning, and other household chores. My husband told me he was laid off 2 months ago for reasons out of his control. I assumed at this time that he would begin job hunting, and I began to pay for everything. While I do earn a decent amount of money, it's not to the point where I can pay for rent, bills, groceries, insurance, contribute to emergency savings, and finance the lifestyle my husband had started indulging in. I began paying for his nights out, subbing him money for trips to look for work, etc., all while I was under the assumption he would be searching for a new job, at least to finance his hobbies. About a week ago, I asked him how the job hunt was going and he told me that he didn't feel like it was worth it. He said to me that he was comfortable with what we had now and I wasn't happy, to say the least. I confronted him about how I was doing everything to finance and take care of our household while he sat around and played video games. I was being an ass here, I'll admit, and during this argument he let slip that he had actually quit and never looked for another job. I was furious that he had lied to me and told him I didn't want him in my home right now. Fast forward to now, my in-laws are understanding to an extent but are calling me an idiot for not wanting him to come back home until he gets a job. I have seen my husband at this time but never in our home, always out somewhere. I no longer pay for everything and his attitude toward me is making me question our entire relationship. He's calling me an idiot for doing this to him, and I'm beginning to think he's right. Am I an idiot? You're the idiot for marrying such an incompetent partner. Why would you marry someone who still lived with his parents? You should always live with someone for a while before marrying them so you can see if you can in fact live with them. I lived with my wife for 2 years before I proposed. Kick his bum ass to the curb and find a competent mate, not the idiot. And to everyone who's saying divorce isn't the answer here, I strongly disagree. He lied to you about quitting in order to manipulate you into financing him fully. Any adult knows you don't make decisions like that without at least consulting your spouse. It'd be one thing if he quit and then told you right away, but he purposefully constructed a lie to guide you to acceptance of his desire to not work. He knew he should have discussed it with you, but chose manipulation instead. That is a dangerous foundation for a marriage. What else will he lie about to get his way? Being passively controlling is still a removal of your free will. Leave. Update. As I mentioned here, my, male 32, husband and I, male 31, had an argument which resulted in me kicking him out of our home. Since then, the dust has been able to settle and we have been able to work through our problems. I would also like to clear up here that we're both men, as some people assumed I was a woman. My husband and I met up for coffee, in public, a couple of days after I made my original post. He's quite the avid Reddit user and in hindsight I probably should have assumed he would see it, but these things slipped my mind at the time. He apologized, a lot actually, about everything. After having my husband back for a while, his parents began to really tear into him about his habits and behavior, and that he'd have to work hard if he wanted to keep our marriage together. We're currently seeing a couples therapist to work through the remainder of our issues to make sure that we're 100% on the same page before we move in together again. My husband also started working again, and moved into his own apartment, after working through some personal problems, and we're almost at a point where we're back to where we were before all of this. We talk every day, go on dates, etc. aside from sharing a space, and we're comfortable with this. I would like to admit here that I definitely wasn't as good a partner as I could have been. My husband's given me permission to share with you all that he'd been struggling with his mental health a lot in the time of his unemployment, and I feel ashamed that I was too busy with my work to notice. I didn't know at all. This isn't an excuse for mine nor his actions at all, but we're communicating and he's finally reaching out for the support he feels he needs. I'm happy with where we are and I feel like he's not hiding his true feelings and intentions from me anymore, which I kick myself every day for making him ever feel that way. Right now we're not planning on changing our financial arrangement or involving a lawyer like some of you suggested, as I don't want to cause myself or him any more stress. Some of you may disagree, as his parents have been gunning for me to change financial information, get rid of everything he has access to in case he attempts this again, but I trust him. This man is the love of my life, and if I can't believe that what he tells me is true, then I don't see a point in staying with him. Once again, thank you all for your support. This is my final and only update. Not the idiot. I hope the best for you, but 100% this guy is going to wreck your life again at the first opportunity, using mental health as a chain to keep you while even his parents are telling you to look out for yourself first. Well, you'll have nobody to blame but yourself when it goes pear-shaped. Not the idiot. I fear he's telling you what you want to hear, and this entire post is you making excuses for him trying to take advantage of you financially. He blamed you for his poor mental health instead of taking responsibility for his own life, until you gave him no option. As with anyone, it is your choice to invite that behavior back into your life. I hope next time he decides he likes being taken care of works just fine for him, you learn your lesson. Should Opus leave this guy? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for telling my aunt she wasn't allowed to see my newborn? For my female 20 entire pregnancy, my aunt, female 43, would make snide comments toward me and my fiance, male 22, about how we aren't fit to be parents with our outrageous lifestyle. We live in a camper on my mom and stepdad's property that is our temporary home, and it's fully furnished with a working kitchen and bathroom. We're also a little bit on the hippie side of life. She would say she was surprised that my fiance managed to get me pregnant since he isn't very much of a man. We share clothes. She would also make fun of my weight gain, saying she could barely see my belly with all the fat. I'm a pretty small woman, I think, and that eating for two isn't meant to be taken seriously. I tried to be kind to her in the beginning months of pregnancy because she had suffered through 2 miscarriages before I got pregnant. My fiancé has never been open about her being hurtful toward me and wouldn't let me write it off as her being upset over losing her babies, and I needed to set clear boundaries, so I did, and told her she couldn't see the baby without my permission. My aunt also has a history of breaking boundaries and calling CPS on family members because they don't have the same ideals that she does. Well, I just had a baby a month ago and finally felt well enough to visit my family. I have a rough relationship with my bio-dad's side of the family, and I'm truly only close with my grandparents and siblings. So this past Sunday I decided I was going to take my baby to my grandparents' house so they could meet their great-grandbaby. I had informed my grandma that I didn't want to see Aunt, and she obliged, only telling a few closer relatives that I was bringing the baby over, Aunt C and her children, in an attempt to keep it a secret from Aunt A. We had a great time and took many pictures with my family and baby. Here's where things get bad. My grandma had posted a picture on Facebook of her holding the baby. She had full permission, and my aunt had seen it despite not using Facebook for years, and within an hour had showed up at my grandma's house wanting to see the baby. I told her that she could leave, and just because she was family, she does not have the right to see my baby since she had been so disrespectful toward me and my fiance. My cousin and my fiance immediately put themselves between her and I to try and talk her down from her rage, and I could remove myself and the baby from the room. My fiance managed to get my aunt and her children out of the house so we could leave. I got a text from one of my older cousins who was on my side during the fight saying that I should have just let Aunt see the baby so the afternoon didn't get ruined. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You set up the boundaries for Aunt and stick to it. You get to choose who can see your child, even with your aunt being disrespectful to you and your fiance. Who knows what sort of comments she will say about your child too? Who knows what else she'll try to do? Call CPS for whatever reason. No idiots here, that doesn't fly. Update. It's been around 6 months since the incident, and I wish I had a happier update. My aunt has still not taken the hint that I don't want her to be around my child or my fiance at all. I respect my grandparents' choice to allow her over to their house for holidays and still attend the get-together despite knowing she'll be there. I still think I'm being a little ridiculous until she goes and tries to grab the baby out of the high chair or car seat without permission, and it drives me insane. This whole situation has driven a wedge in my family. Half of them believe I'm being selfish for not just allowing her to even hold the baby, and the other half have constantly had problems with her and completely agree with me. She has suffered another miscarriage in the last 6 months, and I'm very sorry this is happening to her, but I can't put my baby in contact with her anymore, so I've decided to keep my distance at holidays and get-togethers. We attended Christmas at my grandma's until she showed up with her kids in tow to get a hold of baby any way possible. I invited her over today at my grandma's to speak with her without a baby, and it went horribly. When she comes in, she sees my fiance and I, and then immediately notices that we don't have the baby, and she flips her lid, yelling at us like we're children because we tricked her into coming there only to not bring the baby. My fiance started the conversation only to be yelled at and called many names by my aunt. She ran away crying into the kitchen like we had done something to her. I followed her in and lectured her through her crying, telling her that her behavior at the moment was the exact reason she was not allowed to be around our baby, and if she was going to continue to belittle us on our lifestyle and parenting, she would never see the baby again. It felt silly to be lecturing someone 20 years my senior while she cried like a child. We left without saying anything else, and I held my tears in until we reached the car and sobbed the rest of the way home in the comfort of my fiance. That was hours ago at this point, and I still feel a little silly for how I'm acting, even though my aunt had shown how unstable she was to me today. But I don't want this to drive an even bigger wedge in my family. Not the idiot. Don't feel silly for protecting your child. That's what parents should do. Your aunt is driving the wedge between your family. It's unfortunate she can't have more children right now, but it's not an excuse for her behavior. She's wrong and needs to be held accountable. If she learns to manage her behavior, reconsider in the future. But she is not allowed to disrespect you and then think she's entitled to your child. It's not how it works. Not the idiot. Your aunt has an unhealthy obsession with your baby. If a stranger acted the same way, I think everyone in your family would want that stranger gone. I don't see how being blood-related changes her actions at all. She needs to get her poop together, and her enablers need to shut the hell up. Should Opus cut off this crazy aunt? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for telling my parents they are irresponsible for getting pregnant for the 6th time? I am 19, female, my parents' second child. I have 3 brothers, 21, 13 and 7, and a sister, 16. We grew up poor and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job and my mom doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. My parents are very religious and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't bother me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to poop. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off. We never went out or did anything fun. Now, my older brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better than our parents' lives. He and I have been home for quite a while due to the COVID-19 lockdown. Yesterday, my parents called all 5 of us into the living room. Mom said she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face died a quick death when she said we're pregnant. I lost my temper. I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My older brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they still hadn't learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid. My dad told me I would have to give up the money our great uncle had left me. He had left all 5 of us some money which only we could access when we turned 18. I said hell no, that money would help pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for my family. I told them if they couldn't provide for the kid, they should get an abortion. My mom started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me he was disgusted with me. I told them there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity. Since then the atmosphere in our house has been very tense. So tell me, am I the idiot? Edit. I forgot to add that I told them that the only thing I'd help pay for is an abortion. FYI, I am not American and abortion is completely legal in my country. Edit 2. I want to thank all of you for your kind and helpful comments. Some of you asked if my money is safe. Yes, it is. My parents can't get it without my written consent, which they are not going to get. It was suggested that I talk to my younger sister. I'm planning to do that and I'm going to do my best to ensure that she doesn't fall for any guilt tripping by my parents. To those of you who suggested that my comments were cruel, I see where you're coming from. But my biggest worry is the way my parents' reckless lifestyle is going to affect my younger siblings. And they're not doing this kid any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. Not the idiot. In all honesty, Opus, I'd let it be tense in the house. Do not give them even a penny and do not help them with the baby no matter how much they try to guilt or shame you. They made a choice, so it's their problem to deal with. And ignore all the people that say family or they're your parents, so you have to respect them. Respect is earned, not given. They are selfish people who don't put their children's quality of life first. After 5 kids, they have no excuses and made a choice under the assumption that you older kids would sacrifice for their decisions. They don't sound worth a warm relationship with. Update. Quite a lot has happened since I originally posted about this. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mom's maternal cousin. She's one of my favorite people. When I told her that mom and dad were having another kid, she reacted with what? Again, I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance. She said she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't. Of course I won't. I also called 2 of my first cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parents how much of a financial liability this baby is going to be and try to convince them to either abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was only going to stay here till the lockdown was relaxed, but I just can't bear to listen to my mom's nagging about how this baby is a blessing and I want to kill it. I've moved into a friend's basement for a minimal rent. My mom's cousin paid them a visit about a week ago and tried to tell them they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mom was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids nor had any. My dad told her to get out. Aunt told me there was nothing she could do, but she did try. I didn't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact this kid would have and my mom cried about how everyone was trying to take away her baby TF. The intervention didn't do poop. So now I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further and further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents can't brainwash her. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. Edit. I want to thank all of you for your support. I think I should add that my brother will maintain contact with my parents. I'm actually glad that he will because if they prevent my sister from talking to me, my brother can act as a link between me and her. Not the idiot. I'm sorry your parents are religious idiots. My father made my poor mother have 5 kids because his religion liked to keep their members poor with loads of children they couldn't afford. My poor mother is a victim in all this, just like us kids. Religion really can and does cloud people's judgments. They have obviously accepted handouts to get by and now expect those handouts to keep coming for the next 18 years. You are correct in your assessment that your parents are irresponsible. In 2020 there are a multitude of ways to avoid pregnancy and all of them are cheaper than having another mouth to feed. I am glad you have a way out and can overcome their selfish craziness.